Bandai Namco has just dropped the first official trailer for the final Dark Souls 3 DLC, named The Ringed City. And I, for one, am super excited to getting into breaking it down because it looks incredible. So since that's what you're all here for, let's get straight into it.
The close of the Age of Fire. The Ringed City is said to be at World's End.
Alright, so we got quite a bit to talk about already, even though it's just a few words from the narrator and a video of the dark sign on screen. But notice how when she says, at the close of the Age of Fire, this means that we will be playing in a world or a parallel world to that which we played in Dark Souls 3 originally, that will have the flame either being extinguished as we are playing, or the flame will have already been extinguished when we start our adventure in the Ringed City. Now, we'll get to where exactly the Ringed City is in just a second, but also notice the thing she says after this, where she says that the Ringed City lies at World's End. Well, obviously, where is the end of the world in Dark Souls 3, or more so the end of the game? It is the Kiln of the First Flame. And when you're in that area, if you look below the path on which you walk to get up to the final boss, you will notice a twisted and contorted city of what seems to be Lothric, but in a darkened, decrepit, and completely destroyed state that has the world bending around it. This is where the Ringed City DLC will take place. However, judging from this trailer, it seems as if other areas that are not just contained to this one city that you see on screen will also be included in this DLC, and in saying that, it seems as if the Ringed City DLC will be very, very PvE-centric, rather than how the last DLC was very split between PvE and PvP. And From Software have also given us a summation of sorts of what the DLC will contain and what it will be about. So for starters, the DLC will have us in pursuit of someone known as Slave Knight Gale, and for those that have played the first DLC, that name will be familiar to you because in the first DLC, it is mentioned multiple times, not only by NPCs, but also in item descriptions. So it seems as if the Ringed City is tethering the storyline of the first DLC to the Ringed City through Slave Knight Gale. Along with this, the name The Ringed City, I assume, is a reference to the fact that in this age of dark, or this age where the fire is now fading out completely, in this twisted and broken city, that the undead and the dark sign, the ring of the dark sign, has basically consumed everything, including the people and population, along with what seems like the architecture as well, twisting it and bending it into what you see here. So this kingdom that has been taken over completely by the dark sign and by the undead may in fact be our first ever glimpse at a world in Dark Souls, in the whole Dark Souls universe, that has been completely devoid of the Age of Fire.
Past this heap of rubbish, as far as one can go.
Okay, so what we see here is a Pilgrim of Londor, and this is very important because for the longest time, we as a Dark Souls community, or at least the Dark Souls 3 community, have been waiting or wanting a Londor-centric DLC. And now, I'm not saying that this DLC will be Londor-centric, but the clear focus on this Londor Pilgrim is definitely not by accident. And from the look of this trailer, it seems as if it'll be incorporating many different elements from places that were mentioned in the main game of Dark Souls 3, including Londor. Later in the trailer, there also will be more things to do with Londor, or so I think, so we can get to those, but this image right here is almost proof enough for me that we will be getting a bit of Londor content in this DLC. And as we all know, Londor is the land of hollows, so I don't know, maybe we'll get an explanation or a tie-in to the Ringed City, since the Ringed City also seems to be a reference to a land of hollows that bear the dark sign, or the ring of the dark sign. Alright, so another interesting thing, the Deep is making a return. As you see here, these bluish-black gems are known as Deep Gems in Dark Souls 3, and they are most commonly found in the Cathedral of the Deep. We also see a bit of Cathedral of the Deep imagery here in the gold object that is submerged in the Deep Gems. So, like I theorized before, it seems as if this DLC is taking parts from areas in the main game of Dark Souls 3 and contorting them into twisted and decrepit versions of what they are in the main game, whilst also giving us new lore and new areas to build upon this world that is the Ringed City. And of course, this is to be expected because since the world all has to fit together, they have to use elements that were in the main game to bring forth this DLC that is meant to be taking place in an area near the end of the game in Dark Souls 3, that is meant to be like a darkened version of the world of Lothric. I'm just amazed that they're making the Cathedral of the Deep, or the deep parts of the game that look like this, look even more disgusting than they did originally. So here we have what seems to be the undead settlement, but in this new world of the Ringed City. It's all destroyed and contorted, as we've already said, but it seems as if they really are harping on the fact that this location is Lothric. It is the place that we went through in the main game, but it is not the same. It's completely changed and completely fucked up, and it's not anything like the place that we went through originally. I think these shots are just being used in this trailer to emphasize that point. And here we can also see something quite interesting, that the rest of the world outside of this kingdom has literally fallen away into the clouds. So by the look of this, it seems as if the Ringed City stands alone in this world, put up on a pedestal high above the endlessness of everything else that has fallen away beneath it. And here we have our first glimpse of a new area. Like I said, this world seems to be put up on pedestals and looks to be all that remains of a world that once was. So this area to me looks to be either a key moment in the DLC or a place where we will find either a pivotal boss or the final boss of the Ringed City. That's just my guess anyway. But either way, it looks to be a very large focal point of the DLC. Note that it also seems to be separated from the rest of the Ringed City, put up on a column all by itself. So one can only wonder how we'll get to it. And hopefully it's not as simple as just a bridge. By the looks of it, these are Lothric Knights, but I can't count out the fact that this may be a player. I'm not quite sure because I haven't seen the spell used. This is a new DLC spell that may be attributed to these new Lothric Knights, or if this is a player, this may in fact be a new miracle. However, because I don't know for sure, I'm going to go with the former and say these are new Lothric Knights that can now buff themselves, which is a terrifying thought. Yep, that's pretty much a lightsaber. But seriously, from my guess, this is a new Irithyll weapon, and from what we see in the background in this image, it seems to be an Irithyll Outrider Knight or something of the sort crawling along the ground to get to the player. So now we've seen quite a few interesting things. One, returning but different locales, possible Londor content, and possible Irithyll content. So it's probably a good thing that we got a Frostbite ring in the last DLC. New miracle / weapon. This could be a bow weapon or a bow miracle. I'm not quite sure at this stage because it seems as if it could be a tangible object in the form of a weapon, but at the same time it could also be a spell. But what interests me about this is not the weapon or the miracle itself, it's the fact that it looks to be a lightning-based attack. And who do we see lightning-based attacks from more regularly than anyone in the series? That's right, Gwyn's family members. I'm not saying that someone from Gwyn's side of the family will be in this DLC. All I'm saying is that this DLC may give us more lore connections to do with Gwyn's side of the family, or possibly a deeper explanation of what happened to Guinevere after she left Anor Londo, which is kind of what I'm crossing my fingers for. This guy is most likely a boss in this area shown here, because you can see in the background of this fight, or this cinematic, whatever it is, that the rooftop of the building is very similar to what is depicted in this screenshot. At the moment of making this video, I don't know the name of this boss, as it has not been revealed. It may be revealed in coming days, but right now, all he has been referenced as is the Grey Giant Judicator, or in other words, the Grey Giant Judge. But if this guy's name is revealed like the day after this video goes up, just please be kind. Okay, so this is what I meant earlier in the video when I said there would be more about Londor to talk about. So this is obviously not a moonlight butterfly, so what other types of butterflies do we know in the Dark Souls series? That's right, you probably got there before I did, the Pilgrim butterflies from Dark Souls 3. However, I'm not going to jump straight to that conclusion because this could indeed be a new type of enemy, or at least a new variant on the Pilgrim butterfly enemies. But still, I do think this is either a pilgrim butterfly or a sort of branch of that species because of what was shown earlier in the trailer. So after the longest time of asking, this may in fact be the goddess Velka herself. In Dark Souls 1's own words, the goddess Velka is said to be a rogue deity that operates outside the realm of the lords like Gwyn and Nito and the Witch of Izalith, etc. And Velka is said to have long black hair similar to the woman depicted on screen. Another possibility could be that this is a firekeeper, judging from the diadem or the tiara-shaped thing on her forehead, along with the fact that her eyes seem to be blackened. However, what convinces me more so that this is Velka, other than just the black hair, is the fact that her stature is larger than a normal human's, when usually a firekeeper is just a normal human granted with the responsibility of watching over the fire. And if you don't know, the reason for characters sometimes being larger than normal human stature in the Souls series is because they have immense soul power. If someone amasses many souls or possesses part of a very great soul, they usually grow in size, like Gwyn or the Nameless King or this woman here. The only reason we don't grow as the player is because it would absolutely break the game world. Other reasons for characters being larger in stature are for being gods or lords like Velka and Gwyn. Also note the object she is holding. This object looks so similar to creatures known as vagrants in Dark Souls 1. Well, other than the tentacles and the crab claw, but I'm not saying it is a vagrant, all I'm saying is it looks similar for some reason. That was just the first thought that came to mind. This could, however, be some sort of egg. Other than that, I have no idea what it could be used for, but it crumbles as the player touches it, as we will see. And to me, this looks like the start of a boss cinematic, similar to Lady Maria in Bloodborne. And of course, at the pinnacle of the trailer, we have the super crazy, insane looking boss. This boss definitely seems to be a type of demon in the form of a bat. And for those that know a bit about the Dark Souls 1 lore and the lore on the Chaos Flame, you'll know that Chaos Demons will start to grow in number as the flame starts to fade, and especially so if the flame has been extinguished altogether. This is the reason why we only really see two types of demons in Dark Souls 3, the Old Demon King and the Taurus Demon. This is because the Age of Fire in Dark Souls 3 is actually still persisting. Yes, it is fading, but it is not yet at its weakest point as to when demons will start to roam the lands again. However, this isn't the case for the Ring City DLC, because in Dark Souls 3 itself, almost all the demons were hunted to extinction. And From Software themselves have referenced this boss as being possibly the last demon, if not one of the last. So if that's true, this thing is probably going to be insane. And I think that will just about do us for this video. So once again, thank you very much for watching, guys, and for all the continued support. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you in whatever video comes next. The final expansion for possibly the final Dark Souls game ever, the Ringed City, comes out on March 28th. So be sure not to miss it, and keep checking back here for more content on the Ringed City as the release date gets closer, and hell, even afterwards. So thanks again for watching.